Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all having a lovely Saturday. I thought I'd come on and have a chat about Christmas. Because I've been looking up the royals, and obviously they always have the same traditions every year. And it just struck me how extremely sad it is what Harry and Meghan are doing, especially around Christmas, right? So bear with me. I know a lot of you don't believe there are any children because no one's seen them in years, and the pictures that have been put out are very blurred, dodgy. It is strange, but I do believe they have two children. How they came to be in the world, I do not know, but I do believe that they have two children. And how horribly sad if you had a time machine and you go forward, say 10 or 20 years, how those two children are going to feel when they look up the most famous family in the world, who they're related to, sort of, okay, and that they weren't allowed to join in because their parents isolated them. Isn't that tragic? Isn't that sad? Through their own mental issues, and I do believe Harry has severe mental health issues. I believe Meghan does as well, of a different animal. They ran away. Well, I think they were thrown out. That's my belief. They were thrown out. The Queen just went, "Get out. I'm sick of you." But the story goes that they flounced out because they said they didn't feel safe within very thick palace and castle walls, under heavy armed guard, probably have the finest protection and security in the world. So they ran away and lost their security, their IPP, which I believe they really want. They want to be able to dig into all of our lives and stuff. I think they want to abuse it and use it for that reason, hence all the court cases. So he threw all that away, and then Harry has spent what little money he has, and I mean it is little money. It might not be little money by our standards, but for a royal, to pay for his security and stuff, I don't think he did the maths before. I don't think he thought this through. I don't think he thinks anything through. And his children as adults are going to look and think, well, why did you hate us so much, Dad? Why did you do this? Why did you exclude us? Are we the bad fairies? Did we do something wrong? Why did you do this, Mum? We missed out on so much. And they will meet their cousins when they're grown up, when they're come of age. They will be able to go and contact the royal family, and I've no doubt members of the royal family will welcome them and say, "Oh, wonderful, how are you? Who are you? What happened?" And they will be shown around. And there will come times, there'll be conversations like, "Oh, remember at Christmas when we did this or that or the other at Sandringham?" And they won't have those memories. God knows what kind of memories they will have as children. And Christmas really is a time for children. And I mean, they must be aware. I would imagine that Archie at his age must be aware that he has these very famous relatives who live in palaces and castles in a faraway land. And they are, as the years go by, they will wonder more and more and more. Someone said to me, Princess Chelsea on Twitter, they seem oblivious to the fact that polo disaster thing they've just released on Netflix, that's the end of their Netflix contract. They've literally thrown it in the bin through idleness, lack of imagination, lack of foresight. They've thrown all their money away. They've thrown all their security away. He's got legal bills that would keep most people up all night long, every night. My husband for one, believes that the king gives him money. I don't. I really don't. Charles famously said to the Queen, the late Queen, "I'm not a bank. I don't want to take Harry's calls. I'm not a bank." And I don't believe that the royal family are giving him any money. I'll tell you what I think's happening. I think they're probably in serious debt. I think there are probably a lot of people who've given them lines of credit. I mean, these are just my thoughts and opinions. This is not factual. I don't know any of this for a fact. This is just my guesstimate. Now, we had another member of the royal family many, many years ago who did a very, very similar thing. And I'll put a link in the description to the, I can't remember what they call it now, the Royal Collection. Now, his name was Prinny. That was his nickname. He lived mostly in Brighton, where I'm from, in the Royal Pavilion. Prinny ultimately became George IV. Now, he was very, very famous in Brighton. He was very famous anyway, but where I grew up, I went to school in Brighton. I was born in Brighton. Our schools frequently asked us to do projects at the weekend, and they were invariably about Prinny. And a large section that the schools focused on were the local businesses in Brighton, a lot of which went bankrupt because he had run up hideous debt and it wasn't paid. This was when he was Prince of Wales. When he became king, apparently the Privy Purse had to pay it all off, and that's the link I'll put, and you can go and have a look. I mean, they reckon by today's money, he owed, he had over 82 million pounds worth of debt. That's a lot, isn't it? Unnecessary extravagance, really. Paintings, gold and silver, furniture, renovations of the many properties that he owned, including, of course, the Royal Pavilion, which is my favourite. It really is, it's my favourite, above all other royal residences. It's not a royal residence now. It belongs to Brighton and Hove Council and has done for some time. And they've done a wonderful job with it. But it's my favourite because, you know, I grew up there and I've been in the Royal Pavilion so many more times probably than I went to my granny's. But he ran up terrible debt. And this is what happens. A lot of people will give credit to members of the royal family in the mistaken belief that the monarch will pick up the tab. And I think that's most likely what's happening with Harry. I think their Netflix has come to an end. I don't believe they're together at all this nonsense he comes out with about how he and Meghan are really in love and still together. Well, I'll let you into a secret. I've read his book Spare, and he admits openly in it to having lied several times. I don't mean little lies, I mean whoppers. And then, of course, there's the Jason North emails where he said, we're going to help the guy with finding freedom, but must be able to deny it at a later date. So this is not an honest man. Al Windsor, he's not an honest person. So I don't believe that for a second. And even if it is true, I mean, they're well and truly stuck with each other. Can you imagine Christmas with them? I can't think of anything really much more depressing. I mean, it's a time that if you have family and friends, you all get together. And not everyone is lucky enough to have family. You know, some of you guys out there are on your own. Lots of people are on their own. We will be doing the Christmas live so you can all be together because that's what Christmas is all about. Whereas they have chosen to actively isolate themselves from the entire world, especially the children, just isolated. One dreads to think, really, doesn't one? What are they going to have? Doria? You know, Marcus Anderson? Maybe Omid Scobie will pop round for a mince pie. I don't know. I think he's in their bad books now. I think he went under the bus last year, didn't he? That Endgame. Turned out that was Endgame for him. I mean, it's just so chronically sad. And there's so much tradition. And I see George, Charlotte, Louis and their cousins. And they're just having a fantastic time. And then photographs aren't out there like en masse. But they're regularly updated. You know, these are royal children. They're in the line of succession. And here's an updated photograph. That's a perfectly normal thing to do. Most people do that, don't they? Most people do not hide their children away. It's extraordinary and horribly sad. If they weren't related to a famous family like the Windsors, I mean, then the children would be largely unaware unless they grew up and got into, for example, genealogy, and then they would discover they have all this extended family. But I mean, it's in their face. It's the royal family are all over the media. I see Camilla's going to have some of her family come. I think that's lovely. And why not? Sandringham is a private estate, as far as I'm aware. And they go to church. And I see people asking, is Prince Andrew going to go to church? Of course he is. I do wish people would leave that guy alone. I mean, what is this latest nonsense? He knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who might have been a Chinese spy or did some bad shit 100 years ago. Fuck off, leave him alone and focus on Meghan and Harry. They're the ones that are out there causing shit. I cannot see the money being sustainable. I mean, even debt. If there is more money going out of the door than there is coming in, it's going to come to a crashing, burning end. We all know that. So I can't see how how they can sustain their lifestyle. I can't see Netflix hanging on to them. I mean, that polo show was such a disaster. If she doesn't come out with something good on her cooking show, which, I mean, I think actually a lot of people are going to watch it just to laugh at her. I can just see it now. She'll have like pre-cooked fairy cakes or something and pull them out of the oven and forget a bit of cellophane and see everybody looking. It just is so tragic. And the thing with Harry is he complained in his book about people teasing him about who his father was and the James Hewitt thing. Well, then why would he create such a legacy for his own children and have a shroud of mystery and not understand that then that will in itself create a breeding ground for conspiracy theories, etc., etc. Although I have to say Birkenhead is not so much a conspiracy theory as that it's photographic evidence on the Getty images. The Lord God alone knows what in hell was going on that day. And what was it that slipped from up here to down there? I mean, it's extraordinary. And Harry just seems to have destroyed his own life. He's not only made himself very, very unpopular, he's actively setting out to destroy his life, Meghan's life, and their children's life. That the guy's just on a path of self-destruction. She's quite mental. I mean, this weird grin and this over-the-top laughing. You can even see people standing around and going, what was so funny there? Did someone actually say something or crack a joke? He had everything. How could he have fucked it up so very, very badly? He's not going to win these court cases. He's not going to get his security back. I mean, he's looking at a hell of a legal bill. Plus, he will probably have to pay the other side's costs. He's a moron. Well, I think we already knew he was a moron. But even stupid people, if you put, for example, £1,000 in front of them, they wouldn't actually set fire to it, which is what it appears to me Harry has done. They've excluded themselves from the royal family, that nobody wants to know. They've got no real Hollywood friends. I can't imagine where it's going to end. I suppose he's dying of embarrassment to have to admit to the whole world, Harry Windsor fucked up again. He should never have married her. I suppose that's what's preventing him from saying, well, actually, I've escaped. I've got away from her. It's over. It's finished. So they're probably one of these couples who will pretend to be together for years. But what interests me is how they will hide the fact that they are running out of money. Because creditors, there will be a lot of stupid creditors who go out there and say, you can have credit because you're the king's son. But I mean, as time goes by, in the UK, we have a thing called county court judgments. If you have a lot of debt, that I don't know what you guys have in America, but things are going to be filed against their companies if there's outstanding debt and it's not paid, if I'm right. I mean, this is just my thinking out loud. I just can't see where they're getting their income from. And they've been out of the royal family now for nearly 5 years. Think about it. Even 30 million. And they bought that house, allegedly. There's no money there, is there? And these 2 little kids, and I do believe they exist. As I say, I don't know how they came to be, but I do believe that if it turns out that they've been renting models, I mean, I will be the first to say, oh my God, I was wrong. What the hell's going on there? But I do believe there are a couple of kids. I just don't think even Harry and Meghan could be quite that fronty. And I don't think the royal family would put them in the line of succession. Now, if they're surrogates, I honestly don't know. Honestly don't know. But so I think we're going to see something pretty soon. What do you guys think? Don't you think it's sad that those 2 kids... I know how I would feel if I grew up and found out that my parents had deliberately deprived me of my heritage, of my family. Forget they're the Windsors for a minute, just deprived me from spending time with those people. Because when they meet the ultimate real royals, the royals are going to explain, we tried and tried and tried, and your parents just didn't want to know. They kept accusing us all of perceived slights. We didn't know what we'd done wrong. Then they went on global TV while the late Queen and Prince Philip were dying. You know, they were both, well, Prince Philip was definitely dying at that stage. And Our Late Majesty went to the grave thinking, you know, what did I do wrong? Why do you hate me so much, Harry? Why are you doing this? It really is. It's a path of self-destruction, and it's inexplicable to me why Harry hates his own children and hates his own family so much. Thank you very much for listening.